What makes Arsenal so exciting for me as a team is that despite breaking genuine records last season for goals scored, goal difference and wins in a Premier League season, there is still so much margin for improvement and so many potential avenues for evolution we can go down as we progress into the 2024-25 season. And how we address those in the transfer market is what this video is going to focus on today. And I think our transfer window, for me, boils down to one analogy. If you want to grow to new heights, you have to make sure that your foundations below are even stronger than ever. And this summer, it's about how we balance adding new parts and those finishing touches and details that move us maybe into the killer margins against fortifying what we already have, which I don't have to tell you is very, very good. Welcome back to the Harvey Gratian YouTube channel. I'm so glad you found us or are joining us once again. And in today's video, well, it's had me thinking for a long time, but I'm going to take you through the different needs for our transfer window, where they rank in priority for me, and why Arteta's projection of the future is really the decisive factor. The first indispensable profile that I think we have to go out and sign is the left centre mid, or the left interior, the left eight, the extra pivot man, whatever you want to call it. But why is that? Well, if we include this summer and what's likely to happen, in the past 2 seasons, Arsenal will have lost Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey. Now, I don't have to tell you that these are 2 of Europe's best progressors of the ball. Xhaka more in terms of volume, and Thomas Partey in more specific qualities that I'll touch on later. If you partner this with Jorginho reducing his minutes from this season, which were 921, to probably next season 700 or below as he moves to more absolute third choice midfielder. For all the areas we can improve on going into next season, we cannot afford to lose a big part of what has helped us transform this year. Remember the central progression issues in the first 3 months of the season to now, where we have the sheer amount of controllers in the middle of the pitch in our build-up all the time. I do not want us to be held back, especially early on in the season, again, by being short in midfield like this season. So in order to keep our foundations of this squad strong, I think progression of the ball is a key tenet. Timber, of course, returning is absolutely massive and on his own improves our left-hand sided dynamics and also offers, I think, a certain kind of ambition on the ball, ability to combine higher up, underlaps, and I just think a genuine difference maker quality. But if he is seen as the Zinchenko upgrade, that specialist inverted fullback that I still see him as, there is a massive hole for another ball-dominant profile in midfield, specifically the left centre mid. Someone who can upgrade on Partey's legs and also cover the ground that once nicknamed Thomas Partey the Octopus. So, what does the left centre mid need to have in profile? Well, if we choose our marquee signing this summer to be a midfielder, we are looking at someone who combines the best of Xhaka and Partey and has the willingness to defend and also the legs to defend, but most importantly maybe carry the ball. And it's a lot, granted, which is why I'm positing it as potentially our marquee signing. We're coming to the end of our own midfield cycle at the club, and there are certain qualities that at the very least need maintaining as we look to counteract the real right-hand-sided dominance in our attack that we saw last season. For example, we need a passer that can create over larger spaces and control the rhythm of the game like a Granit Xhaka, but also replicate Partey's press-breaking qualities from deep. Although Thomas Partey can be caught out in possession at times, it's how he disguises his turns and beats a man over short distances in the 1v1 spaces, turning predictable situations into a dynamic situation, often creating our own transitions. This is what I want to replicate in the midfield signing this summer, and I'll get on to why maybe the superstar attacker that's been touted in recent weeks and months maybe should be delayed for another year, but you can increase, I think, our effectiveness in transition, not just by adding to the front line and to our attack. I agree it would be tremendous to have the players who are guaranteed killers in front of goal, but we also need the mindset and the qualities to get our own players in these positions in the first place. I think, all in all, with Rice controlling from the 6 deep, Ødegaard and potentially a new left centre mid enacting that pendulum system in our new form of flexible build-up we've been talking about, and having Timber in that fluid, interchangeable relationship with one of the centre mids, just like Tomiyasu and Declan Rice do at the end of this season for Arsenal. let's say Timber is left back and operating in that relationship with the left centre mid, we become, I think, much more balanced as a side. There is a concern, though, on this new formed left-hand side with the lack of overlap, but a lot of it depends on Arteta's projection for Gabriel Martinelli in the left-wing position. Because again, all of this depends on priorities, and the number of solutions I'm in the process of and about to show you for how our transfer window could go. I think one of them is guaranteed to be the solution, but it's impossible to say which one for me, because only when a signing has put pen to paper will we be able to see a longer term view of what Arteta is planning next season. But we've been talking about striking the balance between, strengthening the foundations and adding extra details. And adding an overlapper on the left-hand side is something I would be more than happy to add. Because unless the left centre mid is a left footer like a Lucas Paqueta, which will not be happening for a plethora of reasons, you're asking then Martinelli to hold the width more than we want, or the fullback to do more of an unnatural job holding the width wide, with Tomiyasu and Timber, remember, being right footers and both more comfortable as interiors and not exterior players. You could potentially see Timber lining up more and more in the position Gabriel Jesus takes up here, pushing Martinelli into the half space, and the new left centre mid is where Zinchenko is. But of course, there'll be a lot of rotations in this little triangle and pod of players. Like I said, if we're not going for a superstar attacker, we need to, I think, prioritise getting Martinelli, a player with the potential, by the way, to be that killer in front of goal we are looking for. We need to get him closer to goal and be the end point, the finishing point of our attacks. But it still goes without saying, I think, having a Timber left-hand side with a new left centre mid and Martinelli off the left already creates much better dynamics than the one Martinelli was placed in earlier in the season. Just having players that, instead of just occupying the between the line spaces that Tomiyasu and Kivior have done at times, it's about demanding the ball, and Timber and a new left centre mid would certainly do that. For me, Jurrien Timber is very important in all of this because he feels like a starter, whether that is inverting from the left or the right, or even more fixedly playing in the central midfield positions. This is a possibility that I've aired in the past, and these decisions have a real tangible knock-on effect to where we prioritise allocating our funds this summer. If we were to go for a flying, overlapping left-back, that would suggest maybe that the majority of Timber's minutes will be elsewhere, and Arteta also is projecting Martinelli as our left wing, and I think the overlapping left back is a real possibility, looking to find our Ben White on the left hand side, but someone who this time specialises in that rampaging fullback role. I think adding these extra details on top are more about market opportunities, and Alphonso Davies could be one. He's got 1 year left of his contract at Bayern Munich with no intention of extending, and with Real Madrid links really going quiet. If you look at Davies, his role would be one just as fluid as Ben White, where he can hold the width in attack in the middle third, or in our 2-3-5 in the final third, push Martinelli into those sorts of areas where he's already shown he can be clinical, or tuck into the left of a midfield three and break blocks from deeper with half-space crossing or dynamic combinations, or even retreat into left centre-back where he's spent a lot of time this season with Bayern, especially as he's been nursing and coming back from injuries. We've talked about the superstar quality of a potential attacker and adding threat, that killer quality on transition, and also that player that teams are really genuinely scared of. This can come in a Osimhen or a Erling Haaland bully boy type forward, or a technical carrier in midfield with that killer ball quality as well, that we've been just discussing with the left centre mid, or a press breaker from fullback in the form of Alphonso Davies, who will also double as a last line threat. And it all boils down to, again, Mikel Arteta's projection of the team. Every single year, Arteta has significantly changed something tactically. So let's far too briefly summarise what they've been so far. Well, In 2019-2020 season, Ainsley Maitland-Niles was a left wing-back and Tierney was a left centre-back in a 3-4-3 or a 3-2-4-1. It was almost a double overlap to facilitate Aubameyang in those Martinelli positions, ironically, in and around the box to platform him and get the best out of, at that time, our captain. In 2020 and 2021, there was more a 4-2-3-1 with Ødegaard eventually moving into the number 10 and shifting Emil Smith-Rowe out to the left-hand side. In 2021-22, we started to see the hints of what Arteta wanted to do to take Arsenal to the next level, with Xhaka occasionally at the end of the season inverting from left back into midfield, or Cedric and Tomiyasu tucking into the midfield three in a 2-3-5. But then with the signings of Zinchenko and Jesus, last season, or should I say 2 seasons ago now, was full-blown modernisation. We could rock a 3-2-5 and we became so much more aggressive out of possession. And last season, the main change, of course, was Ødegaard's role change, but also now a really, really flexible build-up amongst a host of other changes in between. But regardless, I think some transfer needs stay the same. William Saliba needs a deputy, and I think even though he's been pushed further right since January this season and has shared more central centre-back responsibilities with Gabriel, he is still our technical leader in the back line, our transition stopper, and our chief organiser at the back. Of course, he played every minute last season, which is great for him, but young bodies bear the minutes now and they will reap the consequences later down the line, and I don't want to put Saliba in that position himself. I think he needs someone to be able to give him a rest. If you can play the Saliba role, you can inherently cover the outside centre-back roles too, and because Saliba is and will be a mainstay, you can afford this position to be slightly more projecty, if that makes sense. But again, depending on how we choose to allocate our funds, you could have more money to splash a bit higher on a Diomande or a Lenny Yoro in this position. Or if you can't commit the amount of money to these types of profiles, you can go for a more short-term or even in-house fix. But the bottom line is Saliba needs a deputy, and maybe a change in our tactical approach could offer him that. And this overlaps this discussion with another unquestionable hole we need to fill, and that's the Rice deputy, because again, if he needs a rest or is ever injured, we need a mopper up, if that makes sense, of transitions between the lines and that retentive source at the base of midfield. But here's where things get interesting when you link it back to a Saliba second choice, because you could be in a position where you get the marquee signing and you also get an additional midfield body this summer transfer window. That might even be the ideal case for me. And you can get a hybrid 6 or 8 like a Onana or a Mats Vifer mould. And this player could not only cover for Rice, but also for Saliba, in terms of if Saliba was ever out, we could change our system to have a Vifer or an Onana type stepping through from centre-back into midfield. And what's really integral in the player in this role, Saliba can do this as well, by the way, but it's the carry from defence into midfield. That's the main in-possession trait. It's exactly what John Stones has done in the past for Manchester City. And it could be a way of getting a Rice and a Saliba deputy, but just in one player. Again, it's a potentiality, it's hypothesising, it may never happen, but will Arteta go down that route that Pep's shown at Man City? There's every possibility of it. Again, he's changed something significantly tactically. Every single year, he's been an Arsenal manager. And I think finally, it goes without saying, the second choice goalkeeper will be pretty integral if Ramsdale, which he looks like, if Ramsdale goes. As Stefan Ortega and also our excessive movement in this position in recent years have shown, you really need a reliable option in the second choice goalkeeper. You need a stable option. For Arsenal, we obviously need a ball player. We need someone who is just as proactive off his line and in distribution as David Raya, and also, very importantly, someone with a really calm temperament. Someone like a Bilo would work really, really well. He's the same effortless striker of a ball as David Raya, and also has probably a slight upside on the clip balls to fullback. That's a definite plus for Bilo. But to finish, I'm going to talk about why maybe it's about holding off another year on the superstar attacker. As I've said, when it comes to adding something new, it's more about the market opportunity. And I think the only forward available with the ability to truly transform us as a side at the moment is Victor Osimhen in terms of his output and the fear factor against the very best teams. I haven't quite nailed how to describe this trait, but Osimhen has the make it yours trait in the box against crowded and deep defences. If you look at other potential superstar forward options, the PR on a move for someone like Marcus Rashford would be absolutely ridiculous. His contract situation is also just as tricky and complicated as a Rafael Leao. I think the debate of whether you want a superstar forward or whether you wait an extra year and use the funds elsewhere boils down to, of course, whether you want a centre forward or a left wing, but more importantly, is where you see the most upside in this Arsenal team going forward. Is the ability in the front line to win the big moments in games, even if that's just 1, 2 or 3 moments a year. That's obviously worth its weight in gold. And Osimhen, I think, is an upgrade on Havertz the same way an incredible left winger is an upgrade on Martinelli. Only the best of the best can improve this Arsenal team now. But it's just whether you think this is enough upside over filling all of the squad holes and giving ourselves an environment where we can platform our wingers especially much better, because I think both Martinelli and Saka, if we get them closer to goal, does that outweigh the attacker signing, essentially revolutionising how we platform our forwards? I think for me it probably does just, and there is not a right way necessarily, and again we're only going to see, it depends what Arteta's thinking of how he shapes this team and where he sees different players playing down the line. That is the absolute key that I want to stress. But I also can't get away from the fact that we have assets in our attack that potentially have the game-breaking qualities desired, but also underutilised too in Emil Smith-Rowe and Fabio Vieira. And it would be, of course, a shame not to maximise them. But where I draw the line under everything is that whatever the approach, and this is what I said in my final day post-mortem video, there needs to be, and I feel like it's clicked with Arteta now, a ruthlessness off-pitch, not just in terms of who plays and who doesn't, but who is kept and who is sold. If Mikel still believes that we have players in our ranks who can add those extra nice details on tops which can propel us into the killer margins up front, then we use them in pre-season. If not, it's simple. They have to look to be offloaded, and then we can start thinking about a different strategy in the transfer market. I think it's about now Arsenal being the protagonist in the market, acting like we are the numero uno, and I think that will have an equal effect on the pitch. But like I said, for me, the issues we've had this season, trusting Thomas Partey to be fit for at least 25 games, which was a massive risk that proved too much of one, and sacrificing the central progression that we did for the first 3 months of the season, I want to be in a position where our in-possession dynamics are absolutely bulletproofed. And for me, that does involve looking at the marquee superstar attacker being delayed for 1 more year. That's where I stand on it. I really would like to know your thoughts. Also, other players, I don't have time to cover them in this video, but I can get down in the comments and give you my thoughts if you want on these types of players. Any questions, get down below. I know you've been waiting for this video, so I hope I've given you a really good overview of what Arsenal's approach for me should be going into the summer, and why until signings put pen to paper, that's going to be the most exciting time, because we're really going to see Arteta's plans and how they get put into action in the long term. But thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later.